Hey everyone, Chris here, Ghost of GBT on Reddit. Welcome back to another weekly charting video. Didn't have a whole lot of time this week to let the thread run because I posted it a little bit late, but it looks like we got some good turnout already and some good results in terms of upvotes. So I should be able to get through all these tonight. I just want to get the video posted and get it out there. And let's dive right into it. So number one being Twitter long. Everyone's raving about Twitter because of this potential buyout. So it did close very strong on Friday, so I do like that. I think over 23, it probably still has room to run a little bit. The only thing you want to be careful of on stuff like this is there is a lot of news risk. So, you know, they can come out and deny the allegations or whatever. You know, Google can come out and say they have no interest in Twitter, and Salesforce can come out and say they have no interest in Twitter, and the stock just goes right back to where it was. So there is a lot of news risk on something like this, but technically speaking, in terms of the chart, it closed strong, had fantastic volume. I think over 23, you know, it looks like the algos here pretty much stalled it right at $23. And that's typical. You'll see this at round numbers all the time. So we've got it through these lows over here. And it looks like the next major resistance is going to be like 23.30-ish. And then above that, you've got probably clear up towards 24.25 area. So I don't expect that all in one day. Usually after these things pop like this, they'll just grind for a couple of days. So, you know, keep it on radar. I do like the action. I would be probably more interested in buying a dip first thing in the morning. Since it closed right on its highs, I'd like to see like a morning sell-off and then, you know, just kind of reclaim this trend line here that it had going towards the end of the day on Friday. So overall, yeah, I definitely like it. It's got the positive, you know, rumors. So yeah, looks good. Next up, NVAX long. So this company got destroyed on their clinical trial results. I actually traded this last week already. I bought this in the 160s. So to me, this is a bit extended at this point. You know, it bounced off this low of 116 over here, and then I had trouble getting over 150 for a couple of days. And if we look at like a 5-minute chart, it's easier to see. But you can see it really had a lot of trouble getting over 150. And once it did, it really took off. So that's what everybody was waiting for, was for it to break this 150 mark. And you can see it just kind of stalled there at 150, you know, for a couple of days. So once it got over that, you know, it took off first thing in the morning. This actually was a third day. Looks like there was a third day that it took off, or that it was under 150. But you can see once it got over 150, it started consolidating, and so I actually started buying it in this consolidation here. So I started buying it in the, you know, the high 150s and low 160s, and I sold all of it that day before the close. So I missed this big spike over 2, but you know, it did already make a big run. So that's the only thing that I'd be concerned with. It looks like, you know, it might be getting a little bit exhausted. The other thing is, I know a number of bigger traders that are short sellers that are going to be, you know, pretty heavy in this thing to the short side on Monday, and a bunch of them that were actually pretty heavy into it on Friday. So, you know, the liquidity is great. I don't necessarily think this is still a long. I think it needs some time to rest before it becomes a long again. Looking at like a 60-minute chart, I would think, you know, this run, you know, this was the easy money. So if you didn't get that, I would personally wait, you know, for it to at least go sideways for a couple of days. But that's just my opinion. I mean, I might be biased because I already traded it. However, you know, it's definitely still got a lot of room to go up if it, you know, continues to fill in this gap. But it has gone up quite a bit already. So I don't personally like it for a long right now just because it looks like it's already sort of exhausted. I would rather buy it once it breaks underneath this trend line and maybe starts to hold $2 again. You know, maybe it settles above 2 and then goes on a secondary run in a few days. So there's NVAX. Not a terrible long, just, you know, I would wait personally. Solar City. Another one that we traded, actually I traded it last week a bunch of times as it came over this 17 area. So this is another one similar to NVAX. You know, it's already had its big run. So do I think it can keep going? Sure. It could probably keep going up to, you know, 2150, maybe 22. It's going to take some patience though. So I would just keep that in mind. It had its, you know, big washout here where it put in the low. It came all the way back and had a nice, you know, nice reversal candle here on the 16th. And then, you know, once it sort of reclaimed that $17 area and decided it was going to hold it, you know, that's where it really took off and started moving nicely to the upside. So I do think, especially if it holds 19, I think, you know, it's probably still got some upside in it. The big breakout, I think, at this point is going to be over 1950, and we've got upside at least to, you know, 20 bucks or 20 and a half. But, you know, that $20 level, I think, is going to be pretty heavy just because it's a big round number. There's going to be a lot of people watching it there. So just keep that in mind. I do think it still has a little bit of juice, but, you know, if you didn't get it already, I think you kind of missed it. So just keep that in mind. AMD long, the infamous AMD, which I think we have reviewed every single week since I started doing this like 2 months ago. I mean, we started looking at this way back here, and then we looked at it again here, and then we looked at it again off of this bounce, and then we looked at it again the following week after it already bounced. So now we're looking at it for a fifth time. I think, I mean, this is just, it's a stock you just have to buy. It seems like there's a lot of people that are, you know, questioning it every single week, but I think, you know, if you question these things too long, then you miss the trade. So the easy money on this, I think, was to buy it off of this bounce near 550. Now it's kind of, you know, run a buck, so you need to maybe wait for a better setup. But I do think it definitely still has some upside potential. It looks like it closed, you know, pretty nicely on Friday. Also looks like they had pretty large, like a block trade or something here right at the close. I'm wondering if that was part of a rebalance or something like that. I didn't think that there was any rebalancing left to be done in the indices, but maybe I'm wrong. So, you know, that might be something worth noting. But yeah, I mean, let this thing set up. Play it off of the round numbers. You know, $6.50, $6, $5.50, $7, and so on and so forth. These types of stocks that have very, very nice liquidity, lots of volume and lots of high-frequency traders in them, lots of hedge funds trading them, these types of tickers will react really well to round numbers. So, you know, for right now, my guess on it would be that it consolidates around 650, which is sort of what it's starting to do already. It's just slightly above 650, and so you can use that to your advantage when looking for an entry point. So if it starts to hold 650, then you grab it and you use 650 as a stop. If it starts to stall out at 7, then you sell some near 7. If it starts to go through 7 and then hold 7, you know, then you can move your stop loss up to 690 or something along those lines. So you just play the round numbers on these things and you know, just let it trend. So there's AMD, Under Armour, UA. Don't really see anything on Under Armour at the moment. Maybe if, let's zoom in a little bit here. What are these highs? 39.89, 40, 40.14, 40.09, and 40.14. So if it comes over 40 bucks, then it might get some movement, but it does not look like it wants to do that, at least not right now. You know, you need to see it close pretty strongly up against 40 bucks or against these recent highs here, 40.14 or 40.10, because without that, there's no indication that it's going to break out, right? At this point, it's been going sideways for 6 months, so why would it break out now versus any other time? So I like the pattern. I actually really like these types of bottom plays. I played one on TKAI as it came over $1 here and ran up to 180. We were watching this MRNS on Friday, came over $1.80 and ran to 240. Stem is another one. Not really Stem. That's not a good one. Heat Biologics, also known as Hotbox. This one, over 150 probably gets moving. AMPE, maybe over 95 cents or something like that. So these beaten down stocks. Now, of course, Under Armour is not, a penny stock biotech company. So it's going to behave a little bit differently. But overall, I like this pattern. So I would just be watching for it to come over 40 bucks because that's where I think it's probably going to get some momentum. So there you go. There's Under Armour. Next up, we have Tesla and SSW. Let's shrink this bad boy back down. Tesla, SSW. Tesla, yeah, actually I really like this. It looks like, so the close was kind of lame on Friday, it seems. But it looks like, it's put in sort of almost like a little head and shoulders type of pattern here. Let me turn this off. I'll do a screenshot because it's a little easier to sort of see what I'm looking at. So I like this sort of, fail, bounce, that type of thing. The only issue I have with it is that, I had that sort of weak close on Friday, which is not a huge deal. Could just be that the market was weak on Friday. The market closed on its lows also, so that it doesn't surprise me that Tesla went with it. But overall, I really do like the pattern. I think let's look at like a 60-minute. It seems like maybe 207 should theoretically be the support now. So it may oscillate back and forth between 207 and 210. If it gets above 210, then I would expect probably a run up towards 215 at the 200-day moving average. So overall, looks good. It also may have some residual momentum from Solar City, but that I'm not sure of. That's just a theory. So anyway, yeah, it looks like 207 looks like decent support for it. So if it holds 207, then you can buy it anywhere in this area with stop loss underneath 207, maybe 206.75 or 206.50, something along those lines. You just want to kind of get underneath this trend line that's sort of developed right here. All right, so if it does not hold that trend line and also this previous resistance, then I would say the stock is dead, at least temporarily. So there's Tesla. C-SPAN. What is C-SPAN anyway? Hong Kong. Shipping. So shippers have been hot. Personally, I have not traded this stock before, so I'm not sure exactly how it moves. The volume is it's a little bit low, but it's not terrible. 380,000 roughly. I don't personally see any pattern in this. I mean, maybe there's some reason that Hong Kong shippers might go, but the shippers that I've seen going are the little low float garbage ones like Tops, Ship, DSX, the little crappers that no one cares about. These are the ones that I've seen taking off and making big moves. So I would be paying more attention to those ones. But, SSW, I don't know. There's no real pattern on it. It doesn't really look like it moves a whole lot. So I think there's probably, if you want to play the shipping sector, I would play one of these other ones, one of the low float type of shippers. So let's look at like some charts here. So DRYS is a volatile one. ESEA, Eagle, DSX, FRO, Globus. I've been watching Globus for a couple days now to come over 72, which I think should be probably doing within the next couple days. This is not going to hold its gains, by the way. None of these will hold their gains. So, you want to take profits quickly once they spike. A lot of them are real low volume. Once they get moving, they rip 100% in 15 or 20 minutes, and then they die. So keep that in mind when you're trading these things. But these are the ones that I've seen really moving. FRO is a little bit different. DSX is a little bit different. But these super low float ones like EGLE, ESEA, Globus, GOGL, these ones, they won't hold their gains. So just keep that in mind if you're trading them. But those are the ones that I'd be playing if I were looking for shipping stuff. MU. Long. This is just trending. I think we looked at this last week and possibly even the week before as well. So, yeah, there's no real reason to just keep evaluating these things every single week. It's holding its trend, buy the dips, and sell it when it pops. So it's not super difficult to play something like this. You just basically buy all the dips until it breaks this major trend line. So yeah, I still like it for a long. It's just kind of grinding upwards. I wouldn't personally play it just because it's so thick. It's got so much volume and it just moves really slow. But if you're that type of trader, then sure. BRI HD VSLR. What is BRI? BRI must be foreign or OTC, one of the two. I don't have any data for this one, most likely because it's either OTC stock or it's a foreign company. So unfortunately, I can't take a look at that one. Home Depot long. I do not like this as a long. I actually think this is probably more of a short. It's got this kind of bear flag thing developing here. It came back up, retested its 200-day moving average, and now it's starting to reject it. I would actually think this is more of a short. Until it reclaims that 200-day moving average, this is definitely not a long for me. So overall, by the way, this looks very good. It's got a real strong overall uptrend, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything for the short term. For the short term, looks like a short, at least temporarily. So there's Home Depot. VSLR, MGT, LMAT, and EBS. All right, VSLR. Let's see here. Daily. I mean, this is really flattened. So this is similar to one of the ones that I've mentioned here recently. TRXC, MRNS, Tokai Pharmaceuticals, Hotbox, so on and so forth. So VSLR is kind of similar to those ones. When it gets moving, it really does move a lot. And it's nice and liquid too when it gets moving. So that's a bonus. But it doesn't really, it's sort of testing this like 307 area. So 305, 307, 304, 306, 305, 308. And then the next high is 318, then 321, and then 331. So, I would think if this holds above 3 and, breaks over this 308 high from Friday, I do think there's definitely some upside in it. The only issue with it is that really there's only, 20 cents of upside, which, given the liquidity on it right now, it's only trading 500,000 shares a day. 20 cents is not really that much when you can't get enough shares. So that's the only issue that I have with this. I like the pattern. I love this type of, bottom play where these things just kind of come over their, recent resistance and kind of scream upwards. So I really like this pattern overall. But I just feel like, it's going to break over 308 and it's going to hit 320 and then it's going to stall. And there's just not enough volume to carry it through. So what I'd be more focused on this one is when it comes over sort of this major resistance spot up here in the 330s or 340s, you know, there is definitely some potential for it. So this is a super low risk spot to get in if you think that it's going to push up through 330, 340 area. If it does get above the 330s, you know, then you might get some juice. But until then, I think it's kind of stuck. So I would definitely keep an eye on it. I might even set an alert on it, you know, for this 308 break, just to see what it does, because every once in a while these things, they just take off kind of randomly. So might be worth watching. So yeah, I like it. MGT, LMAT, and EBS. So MGT, no, I mean, this thing's a piece of crap. There's no reason, the stock has no reason to have ever gone above 50 cents, in my opinion. You know, now they got this shady subpoena from the court. They got people filing lawsuits against them, or subpoena from the SEC, and you've got people filing lawsuits against them. You know, there's just way too much shady stuff going on for me to trade this thing. For a day trade, sure, but there's no technical pattern on it right now either. It's just kind of a big sloppy mess. So I would not touch this thing currently with a 30-foot pole. LMAT, I need to see some kind of indication that it's going to hold this support at 20 bucks. Other than that, you know, it looks good. It seems like it's in, you know, a pretty strong uptrend, but it did get a little bit extended, you know, sort of away from that trend. So you might want to wait till it comes back down and tests, you know, this 18 to 19 area. You know, maybe even this previous high over here, 1885. You know, if it comes back and bounces off of that area, then you'll have a lower risk spot. If it holds 20, you know, then you can just use 20 bucks as your stop loss. So, you know, if it just turns around immediately and starts pushing back upwards, then that's fine. Just use 20 bucks as your stop loss. But I think, you know, you're going to get a much better entry. You're going to get a much more sustainable trade if you wait until it comes back down towards 19. But if it's not going to do that, if the market wants to keep pushing up, then, you know, let it. Just use 20 bucks as your stop loss instead of, you know, 18 or whatever it would be if you bought it down here. So overall, like it. Looks good. EBS, the last one, Emergent Biosolutions, whatever this is. Looks like a decent uptrend overall, but it seems they got smacked here for whatever reason on the 22nd. Let's take a look at why. Was that June? Yeah, June 22nd. I'm gonna have to be creative here. Search tools, custom range, 6.2. News. Why is EBS down 22% today? U.S. government issued 2 solicitation notices that didn't quite live up to investor expectations. Companies dedicated to creating countermeasures to bio and chemical threats. First is for the continued procurement of 29.4 million doses of Biothrax. I'm not sure what a solicitation notice is. I don't think this is what we're after. I'm guessing a solicitation notice is sort of like an inquiry in terms of buying product. I don't know. So you'd have to figure that out. But frankly, I don't really like the chart that much anyway. You know, it's just kind of sitting here. So I wouldn't play this thing. It just doesn't look like it has a ton of momentum or anything like that. So just not my style of stock to trade. I like the, the pattern it's not terrible. It's just not, it doesn't excite me. So I don't see any real reason to long or short this thing. It just seems like it's not the type of stock that I would play. We look at, there is quite a few shorts in it. 13% short interest. It's only 30 million shares float. Lots and lots of lawsuits, as is pretty typical for any biotech company that gets smacked like this. But nah, I don't know. I don't really like it. I don't see anything exciting on it, so that's the only issue. So there you go, guys. There's all the ones that were here. Let me just refresh this real quick in case there's any new ones that have come in. Oh, good Lord. All right, let's see quickly if we can get through the rest of these. CRM, Nike, OPTT, TSRI, CSPI. Let's see here. I can usually quickly look at these ones, so. CRM, Nike, OPTT. TSRI. CSPI. And LN. CRM short. Could be. It's kind of underneath its major support here. Not really. I mean, it doesn't have any like super support until this gap around 67 bucks, 67 to 68 bucks. So it probably has a little bit more downside potential. It was in a nice downtrend all Friday and closed right on its lows. So sure, if it pops up, gaps up a little bit in the morning, or goes starts out green and then goes red, then this could definitely have a little bit of continuation. What is this support over here? 71, 70. So it seems like it's under all of that. Closed at 70.39. It probably has downside at least into like the mid 69s, which is not a huge drop, but if you got a big enough account, this is fine. You short 1,000 shares of it in the morning and you make 500 bucks and there's your day. So nice liquidity, decent looking chart. Overall, I like it for a short. Nike, long. I do not see any reason to long this. I don't see any reason to do anything with it personally. It's just sitting there. OPTT. No. You got to have some kind of indication of strength, or at least indication of support. This thing, it started out at $2. They announced, that they released one buoy off the shore of New Jersey, and it spikes up to $6, and then it consolidates for a month, and then they release the same news again with a different type of buoy, a single buoy, and the thing goes from 3 to 16. So this is probably not even worth $2, let alone $6. But that's a personal opinion, obviously. But I wouldn't long this thing. If anything, it's going to need, an indication of strength that it's going to hold some kind of support. There is no support on it right now, so it's got to find some support and then indicate that it's going to hold it. TSRI long. Now this is not bad. What kind of company is this? TSR Inc. Business and Software Services. Okay. I like the pattern. Very, very low float, very, very thin. So low float, extremely low volume, but it has had some decent volume. Well, not really. This is very, very thin. So I would say unless you have access to level 2, unless you have a pretty good idea of what you're doing in the market, I would stay away from this personally. I like trading stuff like this, but if you are a newer trader, I wouldn't recommend trading stuff like this just because it's tricky to find entry spots and it's hard to get filled. You're going to end up buying too much or not enough, and it's just not going to work well. So I love the pattern. I personally like trading stuff like this when it gets moving, but it takes a lot of, you got to have the software and you got to have a lot of extra stuff in order to make good decisions on it. CSPI, don't see any reason to long this. I don't see any reason to do anything on it. This is way too thin. There's no volume in this thing. You got to have something. If you're going to trade a stock like this, it's got to be on a day like this where it has way higher than normal volume. So I do not like that. It's just too thin. And then the last one here, LN. These IPOs have been super strong. This one, Twilio, has been nice and strong. ACIA has been nice and strong. So these IPOs have really been going, and they all have a similar type of pattern where you have this long multi-month coil, and then they break out and close sort of on their highs. So just be aware this thing has some pretty wild range. You can see just on a 5-minute chart here. It's not uncommon to see it spike $1 or $2 in one candle. So just keep that in mind if you're trading it. Size your positions accordingly because this thing can get pretty wild. You don't need a lot of shares to make a lot of money on a stock like this. So there's the rest of them. I think we got all of them. Yeah. All right. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. If you enjoy the videos, if you find them useful, if you find them helpful and educational, keep on coming back for more, and we will be back again next week with another video. All right. Talk to you later.